We do have beliefs that feel good to us because those beliefs are based on past experiences, and those emotions keep us attached to the belief chemically. It's in our biology. And we tend to think neurologically and feel chemically within experiences then that are connected to the past. So when our beliefs are challenged, we hold on to the emotion, like, Jesus had a brother? What? That doesn't feel right. You know, he was married to Mary Magdalene? What? You know, I mean, people freak out because they've been conditioned and they want to hold on to that because that then ensures a future that they can rely on. When you step out of your belief systems and stepping into the unknown, you are now leaving behind your past. And then, so then do you have the faculty and the ability to create? Do you have that ability? If not, because then in order for you to go from that old belief to a new belief, then you better have a plan. And you better be willing to have a new experience that is no longer a wishy-washy belief. It has to be a very strong impression in your biology that comes with an accompanying experience that then changes your biology to understand you believe something else. But that's not the end either, because then you have to question from that point, what is the next belief that helps you to understand the next thing? For example, let's talk about it on two levels. And so think about this. The person in our work who, I'll use a simple example, has a very, very difficult marriage. And her marriage falls apart, her husband was abusive, and lived by the stress hormones for an extended period of time. Of course, all her energy is going for some threat in her external environment. She has no energy in her internal environment for growth and repair. No energy for long-term building projects. The body is in vigilance, it's always anxious. She's anticipating something bad happening all the time, and she's got food allergies to everything. She's allergic to her environment. She comes to the event, she does the work, it takes her 3 months, and all of a sudden, in one event, she has a breakthrough, and she's eating anything she wants. Now, she's changed her belief about her past because she's no longer saying, I am this way because of my relationship with my husband. See, because when you say, I am this way because I had an abusive father, I am this way because I had a difficult marriage, I am this way because I got fired from my job, what you're saying is, I haven't changed since that event emotionally. And so now you're viewing your future through the lens of the past. When you overcome that emotional state, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Now you're ready to create a new future, because if you're still attached to the emotion, you're still attached to the past, and you can't create a future. So all of a sudden now, the person has a transformation. She has a shift. She knows that she's liberated from that anxiety. She feels it. And as a result of it, in a matter of moments, Ben, her biology reorganizes to a new mind. And now I'm watching her eat pizza, I'm watching her eat a hamburger, she's laughing, and it's sustained. But that's not the end. Because if she healed herself, then the next question is, I understand the physics and biology of what I've done. Is it possible if I heal myself that I can heal another person? Now my belief is being challenged again. Now I'm challenging my current belief. Is it possible? Well, I don't know, I haven't had the experience yet, but if I'm thinking it and I understand the semantic, philosophical, theoretical, intellectual information, can I initiate it? Can I apply it? Can I personalize it? Can I demonstrate it? Can I modify my behavior in some way based on my last experience to have a more evolved experience? And that more evolved experience will be outside of my beliefs currently, but I understand the science, and if I can get my behaviors to match my intentions, and I've done it to myself, and quantum physics says is that consciousness is non-local, well, hell, if I can create a coherent signature here, I should be able to do it in another person. So then when the experience occurs, now I have more circuitry in my brain that's enriched, I have a new feeling in my body, and I feel like a healer. I already feel like a healer because I've healed myself, but let me see if I can heal someone else. I'm going to bring up that emotion, and it may take me a few times. And I'm telling you, that woman, we did a coherent session where we're healing another person, and the person laying down there was a woman from London who had a exposure to a bacteria in India 20 years ago who had food allergies and couldn't overcome that bacteria. And I watched this woman synchronistically, unbeknownst to the woman laying down there, lay a coherent energy in that person's body, and that woman was healed. I had dinner with her in London, and she was eating salmon and rice and everything else, and she said, I don't know what happened, but I got healed. Now that person who did the healing, her belief was challenged, and because she had the experience, she asked the greater question. So the greater question then led to the next experience, but it's not enough to do it once. You got to be able to repeat that experience. You got to make it scientific. Right. You got to make it a skill. And this is where people stop. Like they have the one experience and say, I'm a healer. No. The fact that you have the experience means you should be able to reproduce that. So then you keep pushing the boundaries of your beliefs. That's called evolution. And so people reach a certain point in their belief systems and they stop. And so I think the problem with a lot of people in the spiritual community is they confuse insight with belief. Like, oh, you know, I have anxiety, so the reason I have anxiety because of a chemical imbalance in my brain. That's what my doctor told me. And I get panic attacks, and I got a panic attack on a plane, and I'm afraid of planes and crowded places. And so now that you know that you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, does it heal your anxiety? No. So then they go to the psychologist, they go to their friend says, well, it's not a hardware problem, it's not circuits and molecules and chemicals. It's a software problem. You know, your father was overbearing, he was a perfectionist, and it's a programming, you know, it's from your past. And the person now has the insight that their father was overbearing. Does it heal the anxiety? But they will see that as a belief, like my father was overbearing. What they're really saying is, I am this way because of this past experience. So then they go to the psychic, and the psychic says you were burned at the stake in Carcassonne in the 1500s, you're a charismatic Christian, the memory's burned in your soul. Now that you know that you were a charismatic Christian from the 1500s, a Cathar, a Templar, does it heal your anxiety? No. So then you go to the astrologer, and she says, you know, Mercury's in retrograde, don't leave the house for 6 months. It's the reason why the way you are. And so they develop beliefs that are within their emotional acceptance. And so then they build more beliefs within those emotions, which means I still don't want to change. The insight doesn't change anything because people will only accept, believe, and surrender to beliefs or thoughts that are equal to their emotional state, and they'll program their autonomic nervous system into that destiny. So then you get a diagnosis from a doctor, it creates the emotion of fear or desperation. You'll only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to those emotional states. Until you change your emotional state, is it possible for you then to begin to accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to a new emotional state and bring up the emotion ahead of the experience? Now we're talking about going against conditioning.
So what about when the process may not be reliable in determining how that outcome is? For example, I've talked to people who believe in the law of attraction, for example. And I used to be one of those people. That's why I question what I question when I say, I mean, I can't speak for the medical part of it, but if I, you know, like in the movie The Secret, we're talking about if I imagine or if my thoughts create my reality, these things are coming into my life as if there's a force beyond myself that's bringing that into me. Or if I study astrology, wherever the stars are determine my life. Now, when I used to believe these things myself, that's the hardest part is when I talk to people now, I used to live my life thinking that my astrology, me being a Pisces, determined my fortune or who I was going to be with. When I watched the law of attraction, I thought if I just thought, like in the belief, that's what the premise is that our thoughts create our reality. And when I was challenging it, I don't see a force outside of myself in that instance that's creating that process. And so when I challenge that with people, they say, well, this is what's happening. And I feel like they're correlating an event with something that they think is this. Do you see the problem with that? Or even when someone says, you know, when I challenge them about religion and I say, you know, what makes you believe in God? Like, what makes you think that there's this external thing beyond ourselves? And they say, well, it's my experience. It's my thoughts. It's how I feel. You can't take my experience from me. And the question I have is, how is that reliable? If we can't always trust our experiences, we can't always trust our thoughts, if we're putting patterns together to do that, how do we understand this belief system outside of ourselves?
Well, I think it's a complex answer. I think the first part of the answer is if people are really, really believing that their astrological sign determines their destiny, then they will look for, based on their perception, the correlations that are equal to their belief system. I don't particularly believe that because I'm born at a certain time under a certain house that has anything to do with me creating the life that I want to have, right? So many people will though, and because they do, they'll select like, oh, I saw 11:11 on the clock. Well, you've seen 2:36 on the clock and 4:18 on the clock, but you're looking for 11:11. Well, then that's your reality because that's where your attention is, right? So I don't subscribe to that, but I respect that because that person is going to keep that belief until it no longer serves them, and they're either going to evolve their belief or they're not. And if they don't, so be it. But if they do, they're going to realize sooner or later it's not working for them. I have certain beliefs right now that I honestly am questioning that I still think are limited beliefs. But in order for me to change those beliefs, I'm going to have to come out of my resting state, have to step out into the unknown and really check to see and execute in a very different way. Now, to build on that model, then it's going to require 1 foot in the practical world and 1 foot in the mysterious world. Because I can't control all the events that happen in my life, but I can certainly make choices that are going to bring me closer to those experiences. Now, I also know from experience that when I'm living by the hormones of stress and I'm living in survival, that you and I and everybody else is always going to try to control the outcome, to try to force the outcome, to try to get in the way, try to analyze when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Now, when that occurs, we're really bad. We're competitive, we're manipulative, we'll hold on to things, we're deceitful, we're greedy, because that's what those chemicals do. So we're always trying to control and force the outcome because, in a sense, we feel separate from something greater.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And watch the videos on the screen right now for more inspiration videos from Dr. Dispenza.